Hello again. I'm going to do a video where I'm going to give a couple podcast recommendations, a couple new movie recommendations, and it all weaves together as you'll see. And then I'm also going to give a little comment about a country. And this time I chose Spain that I'm going to talk a bit about. So when I was in Spain recently, I was doing a lot of walking, so I decided to download some podcasts that I could listen to while I was walking. This is something that I'm new to, but I am certainly catching up. I'm listening to every podcast. I could listen to the news from my country. I could listen to entertainment or anything I wanted to on these podcasts. So it's such a great thing. Now in Spain, the two big cities are Madrid, which is the capital, and Barcelona, which is the city everyone loves. Mostly for the beach, the restaurants, the wine. There's so much about Spain that everyone loves, and it's such a great country. There are a couple negatives, but I don't know if I should get into that today without being prepared. I just find the one thing I noticed this time about Spain is that everybody is smoking. It is something I didn't notice the first time, but this time I noticed everybody has their little pouch where they can roll their own cigarettes, and I noticed this time that just about everyone I ran into was doing that, and that was a negative for me. But I liked almost everything else about it. The only other thing was at the beach. It didn't apply to me, but if you ordered a cerveza or beer, it was always the Indian or Pakistani. I couldn't tell which were bringing it. Now the police or beach police didn't like them doing this, so they would keep following them around, and every time they would come by, they would have to hide it, and they would bury it in the sand. A girl from Argentina said they actually bury it in the under the where the sewer is, so you don't know what you're ordering. I don't know why anyone would, but some people are desperate for some water, so they do it. Anyways, getting to the two movies, I just saw yesterday Nomadland. I was interested in it. The two great actors, Frances McDormand, is that how you say her name? And David Strathairn. I love him in all the films he's in. He's such a great actor. And so I watched this movie with interest because my friend got me interested in all the issues having to do with this, about the recession, people living in their RV or van, downsizing. So this movie covered all of that. It was such a great movie. I highly recommend you watch it. I'm not sure if it'll win Best Picture of the Year if they have the Oscars, but it'll certainly be a contender. The one negative is the way they filmed it, but the scenery was good, the cinematography was good, the dialogue was spectacular, the acting was top-notch, so all that was spectacular, but the way they framed it, I could see some people picking it apart for that reason, but not too much. So I love that, everything about it. I highly recommend you watch it. And the other one I watched this morning was Informed Consent. I just happened to find it by accident. It's about vaccines, and I'll just set it up this way. In my day, we actually did some research, and we asked some questions, and we didn't come to conclusions so quickly. I find nowadays everybody has a position before they even know what the topic is. It is just incredible how people are talking about things they don't know about. So this movie is one you should watch before you start talking about vaccines. You bring up that topic now, everybody knows everything, or at least they say they do. This movie takes you through a bit of the history, and then explains why we use vaccines, and it explains what happens in the history that, I'll let them set it up. But I'll just say that you have to know what you're talking about, or you should, before you start giving your opinion. And this is a topic that not everyone is informed before they start talking. So this movie will give you a little information, and it'll tell you that it's not so easy a topic to talk about if you're not informed. a related one is one that I came through Sean Atwood. If you don't know him, he has a podcast and he's on YouTube with lots of videos. He was the leading ecstasy, how do you say it, seller or whatnot, and he was then busted by the police, sent to jail, and he explains what's going on with the prison system as far as it's just a money-making machine. You get somebody in there and they get, because it's all based on how many people you get in, they get money for that, in the US at least. And so I highly recommend you go and listen to him about his journey through this, because it's so illuminating about the prison system and all that. Anyways, one of the guests he had on was Sharon Gale. And I won't say too much about it because I don't want to ruin the story she tells, but she does talk about vaccines, and one of her children died because of, or she alleges because of it. And so she goes through doing the research about what's in these vaccines. Why are so many people getting sick because of the vaccines? So I listened to both Sean Atwood and Sharon Gale talking with Sean Atwood, and it was very informative. It was about a 2.5 hour long piece, but you can choose how much you want to listen to. And then related to that is a movie that I think we should all see is Patch Adams. He was a man from Canada, and he self-admitted himself into a psych ward, realized he shouldn't be there, so since he self-admitted, he could self-discharge, and then he went on to become a doctor. He met a girl when he was at school, and then, I don't want to ruin the movie, but he didn't stay with her. But I find his perspective on medicine is the one we should all take, right? We're not numbers, we're people, and we should be looking at it from that perspective. So that's a movie I always like to recommend when this topic comes up. And then 2 podcasts that are, I think, exciting for you to listen to. One is American Skyjacker, about Garrett Trapnell and D.B. Cooper type. Back in my day, everybody was hijacking a plane because their thinking was not to stop or try to stop the hijacker. Just wait till he comes down, if you can try to get him that way. But people like D.B. Cooper were hijacking planes all the time. It was incredible. So he actually goes to jail, and then his thought to get out is to get somebody to fly a helicopter in and to get out that way. So other than that, I don't want to say too much. I guess you're getting the theme of all this is paranoia and conspiracy. So you'll see how that weaves in and out of all these things. And then another podcast was called Somebody Somewhere. I mean, there's more than one, but this one was about Bell helicopters. A gentleman started to retrofit Bell helicopters. I have to be careful how I phrase this. The American government didn't much like this, and they came after him. At the same time, the gentleman who was the prosecutor, who was prosecuting this gentleman, was shot in his Seattle home. Now, some people will have different takes depending on how conspiratorial they are. But if you want to read a good article that explains it all, Jeffrey Toobin, the man who's famous for his Zoom antics, wrote an article in the New Yorker about this, and I thought it was very well done. And he comes in through the podcast where they talk to him to give some background and some explanation of the characters. So all these people, and Robert Mueller was the head of the FBI at the time, he is woven in through this as well. So it's very, very intricately woven, very great podcast. So I guess I'll leave it there. The other one, as far as podcasts, if you're ever interested to watch a good movie about this, it's called The Jackal, about Carlos the Jackal. I found that to be a very good movie that you can find entertainment through, And if you want to do a little research before you go into the movie, that would be even better. This was one of the famous characters of the 1970s. One that we're always talking about, but back then we didn't have a cell phone to do much. All we could do is sort of look through the encyclopedia, but there wasn't much about him. Nowadays there's lots of information about him. So I guess I'll leave it there. So all these things weave together. You got some interesting things that you can find. And if you ever get the chance to go to Spain, I highly recommend it. There's so many beautiful cities there. And the streets are wide. You can have lots of room to yourself. And it's just a beautiful country with lots of things to do and wonderful people. Okay? So I'll leave it there. Thanks. Bye.